Hello and welcome to the Whollyculturist. My given name is Stephanie. You might know me as the artist named Pookie or the Whollyculturist. And I am here with Jessica. And I actually know very little about her. As I was doing that, I was like, but I want to call her Jess or Jessie. And I was like, oh my God, I don't even know her nickname. She's on my podcast right now. So just to introduce you in a way where you have a given name, but that's not really how I sense you. I was thinking about who I wanted to bring forward on my podcast as like a first guest. And I thought of if I were to bring up someone who I already know everything about or a close friend and I already come with assumption and I already know their perspective and it can feel a bit safe or it can feel more friendly or it could become more personalized and specific to our story. And I wanted to challenge myself to invite someone on that I felt like had a different perspective that also feels like challenges mine in some way, whether it heightens it, deepens it, expands it, widens it, or has it turned left. Like I feel like every single time I hear, I want to call you Jess, whenever I hear Jess share, I'm always like, oh, that's the response I have. And when I feel that sensation, I automatically want to do something with that sensation because I know there's something for me to learn. And so I invited you here, and I'm so grateful for your yes. So welcome to the Whollyculturist. And I would love just to have you introduce yourself however you wish. And what do you like to be called?
Jess is perfect. I feel like Jessie is the younger version of me.
Mm.
Every now and then when I'm writing to like my younger version or my inner child, I'll call her Jessie. But I never really will call myself that otherwise. But Jess is fine. That's usually Jess. It's like the simplest version. Jessica too, but Jess is usually what I'm called. So I'm Jess. Hi, everyone. This is my first time doing a face-to-face podcast. I'm usually like talking at the sky, and which I probably will be anyways.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah. So who am I? So yeah, I'm Jess, and I work online right now with some beautiful souls, some beautiful earth mamas, fairy mamas, just people with a lot of badass energy. And they really, they really bring me, they raise the bar for me. Because if there's anyone listening and if you mentor anyone, if you're a teacher and you work with like students or people one-to-one, you probably know and understand that the people that you talk to and work with teach you more about yourself, especially if you're open to hearing the feedback. So yeah, right now I work online helping people in their businesses, as well as in their healing journey, because I find that running a business or the entrepreneurial journey is really one and the same. So as you're working on your business, you're working on yourself, and there's just such a reflection there. And yeah, so I'm 28 now, and I started yoga when I was 20. And then that was kind of like the heartbreak open to my own wowness of life and my own stuff. And then, yeah, 8 years later, what I was doing part-time evolved into full-time. And now I'm just really aligned with the work I do. So I take a little bit of meditation, embodiment practices, a lot of Reiki, and really communication and talking, holding space for others. So it's a little bit of everything, but at the base of it, at the core of it is God and love. And that's where I find the work is like listening and allowing and yeah, seeing it all unfold. So that's a long intro about me.
Love it. Beautiful. Yeah, and there's been we were connecting before this. This is like the first, time we've actually connected in real time too. We did some voice notes back and forth on Instagram. It was like pretty it was like, we're still confirmed for tomorrow, yes. I'm like, yep, and we kind of have a topic, It's just about the flow and the energy, and let's just see what's here and all of the things. And when we were starting to connect, I was like, in my mind, I was like, Steph, don't dive in, because you're just gonna start getting into the podcast, and you're gonna miss pressing record like half the time when I'm with someone who's just another, whatever the word is, teacher, seeker, facilitator, healer, like someone who is able to connect in to, God and love. There is something about it where halfway through the conversation, I'm like, someone should be writing this down. Or I'm like, I wish this, I just want to like ripple it into the veins of humanity. So that's kind of what the Whollyculturist really is like, okay, can we make a ripple? So this is our calling you all to just, whatever's here to unravel, to unravel. Um,
Just gave me so many good ideas. Like I
ooh,
never even thought of filming a Zoom call and having it as a podcast, and just, or even just having a moment with a client, be like, hey, would you want to be a feature on my podcast as we do your session? And I'm like, two birds with one stone. Let's
right?
do it.
That's
Recycle content.
Yes, it's literally like, I mean, yeah, it's a podcast. It's going to be audio, and it'll probably be in the Holy School, and it will be on YouTube, and we can just share it, And I think, there's something about embodiment workers that I think is left out of podcast, because you don't have to look here. I probably will close my eyes, and you'll see my hands flying everywhere. I think it's important to see like how to sit in this conversation, because these types of conversations are the ones that we might dream of at our dinner table, that we might wish that others were able to witness. I know that, I can say things and process things and really dive into things when I have someone really looking at it with me. But if I go to articulate it to the person that the trigger is with or the wall is with, all of a sudden my tongue's tied like a freaking cherry end or something. And I'm just like, la, 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 and it's all coming from trigger and fear. And I didn't say anything I wanted to say. So there's almost like an evidence in this too, to be able to come back to, what did I really learn there? Because we so easily can go back to unlearning, because it's so easy to go back to what is standard or what is routine, or what is, instead of letting it unravel and truly unravel until we fully get to whatever's next. And I think integrating that transition from phone call with you to then their life, so much can be lost.
Yeah.
It's the same for me. I'm like, I found all the answers, and I can just walk inside and go up to the person and be like, I'm hurt still. Like, I don't have anything to say that's protective.
Yeah. And I think that's like the best thing that we could do is like, just talking to someone else can like open a doorway of like, oh wow, I didn't know I could say that. I didn't know I could say it that way. Or even just the illumination of, oh wow, that person has totally been disrespecting me, and I just have been taking it because I didn't realize.
Mm-hmm.
Until you have someone to be like, put that mirror up for you, and it's not always going to be that person that triggered you, because like there's just too much energy there to see it in the moment.
Yeah. Yeah, the thing that we almost went off on earlier is like, an action happens, and I'm, responding like, I just feel this heartbreak, and I think it's happening in the collective. So if you're in heartbreak, hi, welcome, and you're not alone. And the heartbreak is, when I said I was checking in, it was with Jess, was like, yeah, it feels like heartbreak, and it also is like, I can very easily make it the most healing experience when my intention is clear, And so when we were talking about it, I was like, I had to, every reaction I'm having isn't even to the thing that's happening in front of me. It's so much more deeply weaved, and I don't know how present or knowledgeable we are in being able to take that blame or projection of self or history or whatever off of that face, to actually take responsibility. Because I come from a past of of abuse and oppression. And so easily can I project that when that's not even the intention. And so easily the littlest thing can have me feel like my whole world is upside down because I have some triggers and I have some wounds. And how I flip it is now I'm a caged animal that is like, you're letting me free. I'm gonna bite. So I become just as volatile, as poisonous as the thing that happened originally to the person that didn't even mean to do anything. So it's like this everlasting thing until we start to be able to identify that all of these things are happening actually are just nothing to do with the person on the other side. We all come from God and love. Like what, you know, like what is that?
I I feel like the nothing is a little extreme, but I feel like it's true though because I was just on a call with a client and she's a therapist too. So to get to her center, to get to her heart, it took 6 sessions to get to the juice. And by 6 sessions, we're done with our we're done with our mentorship. But that was the thing. She was just taking that on where it was like, no, but you know what? I have to look at my own. No, I have to look at my own. And I'm like, but
Uh-huh.
you have to recognize that what this person is doing is actually wrong. So it depends on the
Thank
situation.
you for bringing that in. I have the tendency to be like, okay, Steph, you got this, like spiritual warrior. My
Whoa,
answer
whoa,
is always in how can I just up my spiritual game so that I can like encompass and hold more and take more and be stronger and all of those things. And there's something like, yeah, I shouldn't say nothing. Thank you. I say these really bold words like all and nothing and always and
oh,
never, and I say them very casually, and I've done it on the podcast. I'm like, ooh, responsibility in my language. Like, words are so powerful.
I think when you have a strong personality, there is that like, especially I think yeah. There's just like also us on this call. There's just like a lot of like lion energy. We're
Totally.
like crawling on the floor and like growling and rolling around in the sand and like that's all I do like every night, every other night, at least when it's like nice here in Florida. And it's just like the sun setting. Anyway, so like I feel that energy in the space, but that's how we can get is that like all or nothing. It's like fight me or like I'm out. Like fight me or like I'm out. Like and it doesn't, I'm learning that it doesn't have to be that way. It
Hmm.
doesn't have to be like, and I actually created this chart. It's like the wounded child or the bitch. And then in the middle is like the empowered you.
It's almost like the neutral, like has,
Yeah.
yeah, has not given away power and has not taken power. I think there's something about like, I know my voice, I got my voice, let me share my truth. And it's just so violating to everyone else. I'm like, well, now you're just taking other people's power away. And so it's like the overemphasis of.
Yeah. Where it's like, it's like, how do we bring all that back to center? And that same diagram, like I'm gonna put it in like a little canvas slide, but
Mm.
that same diagram is like the extreme of like the extreme of all or nothing. Or there was another one I wanted to explain. I have so many notes in my phone of like, this probably goes, you probably do this stuff. You're
I
going
have
for
the voice note like, da, 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 da. Yeah.
yeah. Yeah, you're like, oh my gosh, I gotta write this down before I lose it. Oh, I gotta like 4:30 a.m. this morning. It was like God's telling me like three, oh, escaping. It's like so yeah, that was the thing. If you were to look at like a little pendulum or something, you have the middle as being empowered, and then one side is like running away and escaping, and then the other side is avoid like not saying a thing.
Mm.
So it's like how can we be in the middle with effective communication as well as like being in our power. So it's just so interesting. I think all the puzzle pieces of my life and all the things that I've been through, like coming to, it's like the puzzle pieces are coming together and at the same time breaking apart. And speaking of heartbreak, like I'm reading, have you ever read Attached?
I
The
haven't.
Okay, it's about relationship styles. So we have avoidant, anxious, and
Oh, yes,
secure.
yes. I'm an anxious.
Yeah, I'm a little bit of both. It depends on who it is, but it's really is like giving me like, oh wow, that's why I act like that. Ooh, that's why that person acts like that. That's why my relationship was a roller coaster.
Mm.
And I'm just like, so I'm witnessing all of that, and I'm just like, ugh.
I hear that. When after you said that though, I was like, well, I haven't really read it fully, and I feel like I assumed it, and I also assumed it a while ago. I feel like it's a moment choice. I'm a fight or flight, or like I'm a push and pull. I think I'm a little of both, obviously, but yeah, there's definitely yeah, and the tie between them is so crazy. How we magnetic, like the magnetic between let's try and heal the wound of our attachments.
Oh, well, I think that's what I'm in now. It's like, well, how do I heal this need to be away and avoid? But I think there's also this, and my friend pointed this out. He's like, well, maybe you're also listening to your intuition where it's saying, like, hey, you don't really need to hang out with that person. So it's not, so I'm over here trying to conceptualize where he's saying, like, well, maybe it's just a little sign that you're getting better with listening,
Mm.
where you're following what God wants you to follow, but it feels uncomfortable because it's a new pattern. And it may not necessarily be you're avoiding. It might just be you're getting out of something that you're not supposed to be in. And I'm like, ooh, okay.
That's, I mean, if we think about, like really coming back to self and listening, like sometimes that pulls us away, right? Like if we like really feel called to be with someone when we listen with self, then, I'm curious what the voice sounds like when you pull away. Is it from a place of like needing, like what is the tone of it for you?
Yeah, so with the voice, it's like I honor the voice,
Mm,
but then there's almost a part of me that wants to like snatch it back, like go back on what I said. So the voice is almost, it's like the first voice is like, yeah, no sleepovers with men. The first voice is no sleepover tonight. Like, you want to be with yourself, Jess, like honor that. Okay.
yeah.
And then you have the other person that's like over there, like, oh, like, well, it's closer to my work, and I'm kind of lonely, and it'd be fun to have a sleepover. And then I'm over here like in my head, I'm like, I don't want to be the one that starts pleasing. In a way, there's a few things happening. It's like, I don't want to be the one to give into the stuff that you have to work on, right? Like your
Hmm.
own need for companionship and loneliness. Because when I go to look at me, and I'm like, I that's an older version of me. Whereas right now it's like, I want to be myself. I love being with myself. So the and then that little bit of like picking up on his stuff. So but then the next day I woke up, so I honored my own boundaries, whereas like, I want to go home, and no, we're not having sleepover, right? um Meanwhile, this is a friend it's a safe, it's a secure attachment style friend too. So when someone is a secure attachment style and you're like anxious or avoidant, there's no up and down roller coaster, there's no emotional whirlwind. It just is what it is. So it's
Hmm.
really unfamiliar for me.
Mm.
So I'm like not really into it, but at the same time, that's what happens when there's a secure attachment. It's like there's not that many waves. you
Yeah.
know I've thrived on the waves, the emotional roller coaster. So now I'm reprogramming where I'm like, oh, okay. So that's just a little backstory of that. So anyways, the next day I woke up, and I was just like feeling really weird. And I was like, I need to cry. I need to let this out. I didn't want to talk to anyone. And this is where I kind of like pull back a little. I'm like, I don't want to talk to that person. I don't really want to hang out with them that much. So that's like a little bit of that like avoidant part. But then the part of me that's like, well, you also hung out with a lot of people this week, and you also need your alone time, right?
Yeah.
So I cried, I processed it. And what came through was like the abandonment and rejection wounds of if I stand behind what I want, will this person not want to be my friend anymore?
Yeah. Yeah. Yeah, because if it's a deep honoring of that time alone, and if it's not so, black and white of like you're being pulled away from this person in particularly because you're not supposed to hang out with him, but what if it's simply like in this moment, you have a desire to be with me and I don't have a desire to be with you, and I know it's more convenient for you to be here, and I'm going to trust that you'll still be my friend and we'll still be able to do the sleepover some other time when it feels like we're in alignment, right? And there's so much fear and like I know when I set a boundary and then like my husband, we have rings on our fingers and we have vows, and I'm like he walks away and I'm like, was that okay? Oh my god. And I set a boundary and I feel like it's this thing of like letting it happen. When you were talking about the graph that you were making back and forth of the inner child and the bitch,
A wounded child.
the wounded child and the bitch, and when I think of the empowered, like the neutral, like the holy, the sovereign in the middle, and I think of like when I go and have those moments and I like deliver whatever there is, there's like an excerpt of energy of something and then it's like it must be responded to or like
Yeah.
something and it doesn't, and all of a sudden I am totally on one or the other, it's like so much of like a moment by moment of like I don't think I'm ever gonna stay here, but do I have to go all the way over here or do I have to go all the way over here? How can I just like,
Yeah.
ooh, I always try and teach that, like, can you just move and shake it and be like, whoa, that was not what I was expecting, okay, cool, letting go of all the attachments and all the shit. What's my next action, like what's my next move or what's my response instead of being a reaction.
Well, I love that analogy. Like I think of it as the pendulum, right?
Mm-hmm.
Um, and that's the thing. It's like checking in with yourself so that you don't swing so far to the left. And this is with anything. You don't swing so far to the left that what happens, you're gonna have to swing so far to the right. And then you're gonna swing back. And then,
it's
so
it's
that's
the
why you want to catch
manicness.
it. Yeah. You want to catch it before really go to the deep end, because then you're just gonna go to the exact other deep end.
Totally. The thing that's bubbling up in me to support me in doing that is that I feel like when I feel really empowered, I also have a sensation of knowing that like I can get off of it. And there's like a huge responsibility and weight to stay there instead of allowing even just like, I might get triggered for a moment and need to like take a breath and, like be like, oh, that sucked. That was your response. Okay, hold on. Like to even be like, I just need a moment, instead of going just flopping and being so disappointed or hurt by whatever the reaction was. So for me, it feels like a less amount of responsibility to like come with a perfect whatever, right? If we're really empowered and sovereign and neutral, we don't need to do much there.
Yeah, I think it's also, I mean, I'm just going to speak from what happens with me, is that when I feel good and I'm in that alignment, there's almost this like, it's like, okay, can I be more? Like, can I
Mhm.
ride this high? And then like, and then it drops. And then also knowing that it's okay if it drops, right? Like it's okay if it changes. It's okay if it fluctuates. But like, can I be in the fluctuation too?
Instead
And
of chasing it and then
yeah,
falling.
and
Oh,
then
yeah.
want something, but and then it comes back to like wanting something that's not even there. And it's like, well, how can I be in what is now and just like enjoy it and like and revel in it rather than like, you know, on to the next. I want to go higher. I want to go higher, and then it drops, and then
Mhm.
it's like, wait, I want to get it back, and it's like, no.
I've been doing this practice recently, especially when on purpose and feeling really empowered. I feel like that's when people tend, well, I'm just going to speak from personal experience. When I tend to spin out, people, all of us, all of
Yeah,
humanity does it.
yeah. I love
Uh,
when
I
we all,
tend to spin out when I'm really passionate and I don't take breaks to acknowledge like what has happened or what I've created or like this is the thing that like let's go ahead and I'm going to take a moment to actually like sit with this being done. Great. And like what did I just learn? Let me just witness it. Let me enjoy it. Like, take that breath. to then be like, okay, cool, what's next? Instead of just being like, and there's more, and I can keep doing, and I can keep going, and all the things. It's like, whew, okay, cool. Like that, it's just so needed for me, or I'm done for.
Can we integrate it? That's what I'm trying to do, is like
Mhm.
integrate between the, the big creative sparks or the big moments of our life. Can we have the integration process after that, so that we can be like, okay, all right, where am I moving to next?
Yeah, totally. I have a question for you. It's been this distinction I've been playing with for a while now, and as a deep creator, I feel like it would be just cool to hear from you about it. But I read this book, and it's like been said in a bunch of different ways of like the balancing act of when we're in deep creation, it is source for destruction to be happening at the same time. That balancing act. And I witness it a lot within me, and a lot of it's like in art, like as I'm creating, there's like a deep it's kind of like a painful process in creating big projects. And sometimes, like I do my best to cleanse and release and do all of that other stuff because I can just sense both. But I'm always curious about like how that process of deep creation is, if you relate to it, if you feel it, how you deal with it, just kind of that process. Because as someone who has manifested what many people want to do and continue to manifest, I think it's important to speak about that process. Like creating something out of nothing is what we do.
Yeah. Yeah, it's so interesting. I actually just picked up the book Wild Creative. I don't know if you've ever read it.
I
Did you ever?
haven't. Should I?
Oh my gosh, so good. Tammy Lynn Kent. I ended up reading Wild Feminine. Actually, I listened to it on the Audible. And then this is like the masculine version of Wild
Ooh.
Feminine. So it's called the Wild Creative. And it's more of the container for the creativity. So it talks about the cycles and how to honor your cycles and then attune. So everything is like a patterning, right? Like the internal patterning or core. So if you want to change something in your life, you have to change the core patterning around it. So like that's why like embodiment practices, rituals, movement are really powerful, because it invokes, and then there's this like internal rewiring that takes place. But I just happened to, have that, read like a chapter right before I got on this call,
Mm.
actually bringing me into that, portal again, because I'm moving into month 2 in the Blossom Business School. So the Blossom Business School is 4 months long: earth, water, fire, air, and then ether is like the container, the holding of it all, right? So I'm coming up to water and I'm filming. So when I film for my offerings, for my classes and programs, that is a creative cycle. So I'm going through that process, and what that looks like is it's funny because it's like it sounds so simple, and I'm actually creating, a class around how to design, and how to design an offering, and how to go through your creative process and honor the flow, because it is a flow. And like, you're an artist, so you know how it is when you're like actually depleted and there's just no juices flowing. And that's why like space and time with ourselves are so important. So my process really with filming is I like to do a template. I like to have my journal templated out. What do I want to share? What do I want to talk about? And give me one sec. Truck. Okay, a little pause. I was outside and my balcony is getting loud because it's lunchtime here. But yeah, so my process is writing it down on paper and just getting it all down. And then as soon as I start to gather, that outline, it's like throughout my days, more comes. You get that download while you're driving, and then while you're at the beach. And it's just like, a lot comes through when I'm watching the sunset, when I'm at the beach, just like playing, being spontaneous. Like I'll get like a whole post for Instagram, or a whole lesson, right? And then so there's like this gathering process, and it's so funny because Tammy Lynn Ken talks about this process, and so reading it by her putting it into words, I'm like, oh wow, that's so interesting. That's kind of my process. And so I'll have to like find the page and tell everyone about it. But essentially, there's a gathering, writing it down, and just like continuing to be in that flow. And then when it gets to filming, I have to film when I feel like it. You know, sometimes it's like, okay, I know I have to film tomorrow, but I have to, it's like a priming. You have to prime yourself to get into that. It's like a, you know, like a little pre-game to your creative party, right? So what I do is like I do it in the morning usually, or I'll take myself out and go to like a park. But I have to go through my own like rhythm and flow in the morning, and I can't look at my phone. I make sure I can, but like sometimes it throws me off. And then like the creative juices that were flowing, I just, all that energy that was about to go to creating the video now goes into like talking to my assistant, or talking on Instagram, or answering my clients. And then it's lost. Now it's in the, now
Mhm.
I'm in the work portal versus the creative filming portal. So it's really important to like, you know, and this could be with any project, is to like prime the space and limit distractions, and then just get to it to the point where like you're like, okay, I'm done. You know, it's like, okay, I've had my fix. And then, you know, I filmed yesterday, the day before, and I was like, okay, I have to set this aside. I'm done. I did great work, but I have to set it aside, and then I'll have to revisit it and like kind of review it, because sometimes you know how it is. You don't even know what you even said.
Mhm.
So that is like a creative process with me and like work filming stuff.
Yeah, yeah. I find that finding the flow and knowing the flow can change. I'm such an advocate of daily practice. And I think the thing that we tend to do is like, well, I didn't do the journaling and I haven't done journaling in months. Well, maybe the current daily practice isn't in journaling, right? So, like, it's always that question of like, what do we need right now? How does my body want to flow? And like, sometimes I find myself waking up at 3 in the morning and having these really long, lonely mornings that are like quite beautiful because that's what I needed, just to like sit with self, watch the sunrise, and like make coffee and write or do whatever I was doing, move around all morning. I don't know, but I've been challenging myself instead of the go to of like, cool, what, how do I want to flow? Like, what is the flow of me today? And like, it could be anything. Like, I know what I normally do and what it's this morning. And it's been really great and challenging and imperfect, but it's been nice for my energetics to listen to them. And it's been leading to less burnouts of the creative process. I love that you're like, okay, cool, I did great work. And, you know, like I'm done and I'm putting it down for a second. I think that's so, and I do it so easily in art where I'm like, this needs to breathe and I
Yeah.
can just walk away. But there's other things that don't feel so easy to do that, you know, when it's structure. Maybe it's like the Virgo in me. I don't know.
Oh, what's your signs?
I'm a
Your s-
Virgo and an Aries and a Cancer. I'm a Virgo like by like first. What are you?
Wait, stop.
What are you?
Wait, I'm an Aries sun, a rising Virgo, and a Cancer moon.
No way.
Yeah,
Wow.
I love that.
That's so crazy. Mine are just all switched around.
Yeah.
Just weave differently, but with the same planets at our tails.
Yeah. Oh my god, I would love to see what the rest of your chart looks like. That's so funny.
I
Yeah,
have that huge reading that we got, and it was so beautiful and it was so abundant that I was like, I feel like I'm going to reread this like 7 times and find something new about myself every single time.
it's so funny you say that because I've been thinking about that reading and I never even finished it.
I know. I was like, come back. I flagged
I
it. We both, so how Jess and I both met was actually through a really beautiful coaching program. And it's actually one of our contributors at the Holy School, Ashley Seymour. And she is just like majestic. And she brought a bunch of women together to do just, you know, practice all of the ways of healing together to see what stuck out, what we wanted to learn more about, what we wanted to practice. It was a really cool space to come to once a week where we got to be together, and that's how we know each other. And we got these really abundant astrology readings with it, and they were so juicy. And it was one of those where I feel like I'm going to go once a month and be like, read one more paragraph and be like, that's what I needed today. You know, it's one of those, like, it's now turned into an intention pulling paragraph. It's so good.
Yes, I'm definitely after this call, after this podcast, I'm going and diving deep into that. I love astrology. I listen to my girl every week for a
That's
little
amazing.
update.
It's amazing. Oh, beautiful. Well, as far as winding, does it feel good to start winding this down?
Yeah, you the boss here.
Okay. Well, do you want to tell them how they can reach you, how they can see you, how they can hear you in all the ways?
Yes, let's do it. We talked about such good things.
We did. I don't know
Um,
what we talked about, but I can't wait to re-listen.
yeah, we talked about some good things, which everything has like another branch with 5 branches.
Totally. We could have gone on all of the things, right? And I'm like, well, there's a snippet of all of the things we could talk about.
Part two, part two is coming,
Totally.
down the road. We'll see what happens then. um, but yeah, so mostly I am on Instagram and my email list as well, but Instagram at Jess Moroz, Moroz. And I am currently in launch process for Blossom, the intuitive business school, which is it's created for women. It doesn't mean that men won't jump on the bandwagon at some point. But I created it to honor the cycles of nature and then our creative cycles as well as the cycles of being a woman. And it relates to our spirituality, our healing journey, and then reflected into our business and our relationships. Because when you run a business, you know, how are you bringing in money, and what is your relationship to your clients, and what is your relationship to money and your intentions and your mission. So we're in month 1 right now, and I'm still signing people up until probably a few more weeks, but whenever you're going to listen to this, Blossom Business School will be available. It's going to be turned into a course soon, but it's currently a one-to-one mentorship where there's 2 options. There's the sunflower package and the white rose. So depending on how much one-to-one time you want, you pick that. You pick which one you want. So that's my current shenanigans, current vibe. And then I just do like drop in monthly Reiki classes or like a Reiki circle, and then Blossom Biz Master Class. So you'll get like a little taste test in a master class of what I teach in Blossom. I would say more of a condensed taste test. Like, if you were to like simmer down like a broth, you get a condensed version for like a really awesome price. And because some people just want a spoonful. Um, and then, yeah, Reiki school is coming in the fall, where I will be leading people in level 1 and possibly level 2 training. Last year is called Healing the Healer. So this year we'll see what wants to come through for the name and theme. And yeah, so that's kind of what's happening on my end. And I appreciate you all for listening, for being so present. And I thank you, beautiful sunshine, for having me.
Of course.
Mm,
Thank you for saying yes. And if you
yeah.
have any call to join us and me on this podcast, to join Jess and all the things that she's doing, to join the Holy School, I've been talking about it all over the place. So if you don't know about it, you can just go listen to a previous episode or just go to theholyschool.com. Holy spelled weird. The word whole and holy combined, just squished together. Wholly. That's how we spell holy here. And if you made it to the Whollyculturist, you know how to spell it because it's the how we spell Whollyculturist too. So with that, I love just to end it with anything that we wish to tell humanity, any last reminders. It could be in prayer form, it can be in affirmation form, it can be in whatever, but just to take a moment. Thank you for listening, and whether you made it all the way through, whether you've listened to this, whether you have not, I intend for whatever comes, to be felt by you, because you are whole and holy and you are loved. And what I wish for you to know today, and Jess, I'll ask if there's anything you want to wish for them to know, but what I wish for you to know today in this moment is that everything that feels hard that is in front of you is handed to you divinely for you to know how powerful and magic and majestic and everlasting and powerful that you are. It is made for you, and I'm sorry if the hardness hurts, but you have the medicine to heal self, and so then those that you love that are around you, you can simply transfer it to them into their own bloodstream, so it goes into their heart. So any obstacle, if you can turn them into quests, they are here for you. And with that, I'll say
Hallelujah. I love it. Yeah, that was so beautiful. So what I would like to offer and share, a little drop of wisdom for humanity, is to always come back to your heart, Mother Nature, and the silence. Because the silence is where we hear God. And yeah, we still hear and feel Him in the chaos. But I find that the juice and the medicine is really in the quiet. So there's this song, Speak to the Silence, by Will Regan. And I find when we are in silence, we're in connection, deeper, even deeper connection. So be in nature, be in silence, be in your heart. Amen.
Amen. Now go kick ass today, and ciao for now.